ETA CARINAE is a stellar system containing at least 2 stars, with a combined luminosity greater than 5 million times that of our Sun. Located around 7,500 light-years away in the constellation of Carina, ETA was previously a 4th magnitude star, but it brightened in 1837 to become brighter than Rigel, marking the start of its so-called Great Eruption. Hi everyone, Vega here, and in today's video we visit one of our galaxy's most curious stars, and to start an investigation into what could have happened at ETA CARINAE. So let's get to it. ETA CARINAE is best viewed in the southern hemisphere, from location south of latitude 30 degrees south, or just south of Cairo, Egypt. The 2 main stars of ETA CARINAE system have an eccentric orbit with a period of 5.54 years. The primary is an extremely unusual star with the designation of LBV, meaning luminous blue variable. Luminous blue variables are massive evolved stars that show unpredictable and sometimes very dramatic variations both in spectra and in brightness. They are also known as S Doradus variables, after the incredible star of S Doradus, one of the brightest stars of the Large Magellanic Cloud. These types of stars, unsurprisingly, are considered to be rare. Thought to initially have had an astonishingly large mass of around 150 to as much as 250 solar masses, ETA CARINAE has already lost at least 30 solar masses of that, and indeed it's expected to explode as a supernova in the not too distant future. Not only this, but quite incredibly, ETA CARINAE A is the only star known to produce ultraviolet laser emissions. The secondary star of the system is also hot and highly luminous, but this time most likely of spectral class O, and it's around 30 to as much as 80 times as massive as our Sun, so it's just a little brother then. Unfortunately, the system is highly obscured by the Homunculus Nebula, as we see in this wonderful image, which consists of material ejected from the primary during this great eruption, which makes things more difficult to determine. Let's get back to the beginning. ETA CARINAE was originally just a run-of-the-mill 4th magnitude star, another big blue star that punched around its weight and could be seen from many parts of the galaxy, just like other big blue luminous stars of its kind, Rigel, Aludra, Saiph and company. However, the mystery began when it became astonishingly the 2nd brightest star in the sky in the mid-19th century, usurping the beautiful Canopus. It does seem quite a bizarre cosmic coincidence that of all the parts of the sky where it could happen, the 2 stars, Alpha Carinae or Canopus and Eta Carinae, were so close together. Indeed, Eta experienced several peaks in brightness during this period, in 1827, 1838 and 1843. It's thought that these peaks are due to what's known as the periastron passage, or the point the 2 stars are closest together, of their binary orbit. The maximum magnitude ETA CARINAE reached was around -1. After that, the star then strangely went back to sleep again, but fading this time to below naked eye visibility. It then curiously, over 100 years later in the second half of the 20th century this time, began to brighten again to become a highly visible to the naked eye star of 4th magnitude by 2014. Then curiously, over 100 years later in the second half of the 20th century, the star once again began to brighten to become a visible star again to the naked eye, and by 2014 it was again a 4th magnitude star. So what actually happened during this great eruption, so to speak? Well, the thing is, it's a mystery, and we don't really know. Some think that ETA CARINAE's historic 1843 outburst was in fact an explosion that produced a fast blast wave similar to, but crucially, less energetic than an actual supernova. It gets even more curious because ETA CARINAE is known to contain at least 2 stars, and this event, appearing similar to a supernova, you might expect the 2nd star to have been destroyed or indeed ejected from the system, but this isn't the case. A possible explanation for this is that ETA was rather than a binary system, it was actually a triple system. In this interesting diagram we see what some think is what happened in the system. It begins with mass being transferred from star A. As that star reached the end of its life, having lost its outer layers, to star B, it left behind a helium-rich core. Star B eventually became so large after accumulating all this mass, possibly even over 100 solar masses, that the balance then in the gravitational system became unstable. This meant the smaller component, C, began spiralling inward, and eventually it's thought to have smashed into component B, which created this huge outburst as we saw in the 1800s, but crucially not with enough force or mass to tear the star apart. So in essence, the theory is that what is now Eta Carinae A was originally component B in the original system. So it certainly seems plausible that a nasty case of sibling rivalry, in a plot not too dissimilar from Game of Thrones, of 3 original stars, or siblings, now only 2 survive. Indeed, Eta Carinae stars A and B still orbit each other today, with a period of 5.5 years as already mentioned. Of course, this theory is far from fact, and it's merely a best guess. The truth is, we just don't really know what happened, and it's entirely possible that this mythical third star in the system never existed at all, which again would put us right back at the drawing board. If this scenario was not what happened, and again, there isn't really anything other than hearsay to say that is what happened, what on earth did happen? The explanation of why the star then re-brightened to become a 4th magnitude star remains unanswered, and despite 185 years of close scrutiny, there are still a lot of things we don't know about this system. Perhaps the best way to think about the star is as explained by David Espinosa, an astrophysicist at the National Autonomous University of Honduras, that said, "It does a lot of weird stuff. It's not a black hole," he says, "but sort of like a black hole, because once you fall into it, it's hard to extract yourself." In the future, Eta Carinae is not expected to produce another blast or brightening, and any gamma ray burst that could emanate from the star is risk-free to our solar system, as the star's axis is thought to be not aimed directly at the Earth, so need not worry. But even if it were, the main effect would result in damage to the ozone layer, as the star, as we mentioned, is around 7,500 light years away. In today's final graphic, we imagine what the star of Eta Carinae would look like back in the 19th century, when the brightening occurred. The Carinae constellation, in a strange twist of fate, of course also houses Alpha Carinae Canopus, and we see that star shining brightly as normal. Slowly, Eta begins to develop, to reach a maximum apparent magnitude of around -1, before slowly fading from view altogether, this time over 100 years later, but as a much dimmer, but still visible 4th magnitude star. Eta Carinae is a mysterious star system in the Carinae constellation that contains very massive hot stars, one thought to be a luminous blue variable and the other a bright O-class star. Back in the 19th century, the star suddenly took centre stage when it usurped Canopus in both the Carinae constellation and also in general, to become the 2nd brightest star in our night sky briefly. It then dimmed out of naked eye view, only to reappear many decades later as a 4th magnitude star. Part of the explanation involves a 3rd star in the system, but it does remain unproven, and so the mystery of what happened remains unsolved to this day. One thing that we can say for sure, and perhaps now the only thing that we can be certain of, is that Eta Carinae is a fascinating system, and it certainly does a lot of weird stuff. Thanks for watching, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you would like to support the channel further, you could consider joining the channel, which comes with some membership perks, or alternatively buy me a coffee, and I'll link this in the description. Thanks to those of you who have already done so. Chats with 1979 and America West 90. Let me know any ideas for videos you have in the comments below. Take really good care of yourselves, look after your friends and family well, and I'll see you on the next one.